Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now you join me in my car because this is the start of a new series, tech I found on Facebook, or rather the Facebook Marketplace. Now the Facebook Marketplace is a decent online location for people to sell or get rid of their old junk. Second-hand wares, and there's often a lot of tech related products on there. So this particular episode started off with these two machines here, £40 for two working PCs. I'm in my car now because I'm on my way to collect them. So let's get into it, collect the PCs, and I'll talk a little bit about what I've got, what my plans for these systems are, and in the future we'll see if we can upgrade them or just try and make a profit on them as they are. One man's trash, of course, is another man's treasure. Now these systems look very similar from what I can see through here, but the only way to find out for sure is to get them outside, open them up, and check out the specs, because there was no description as to the specifications of these machines, but it doesn't look like we have any graphics cards from what I can see. So I thought before we clean it up we should at least test out these machines, and to do that I've needed to dig out about 100 adapter cables. We got the HDMI to DVI hooked up to the VGA, which is then connected to another VGA, which is connected to this VGA, which will connect on there somehow. It will go on. It will go on. Look at that dust. That is grim. Okay, machine one. Time to shine. Machine 2, you're up.
It was about at this point I realised that my overzealous use of adapter cables probably wasn't helping here, considering both PCs refused to boot up. So I decided to look for a suitable monitor with a VGA connection and run the tests again.
So I tried things with a different monitor without the hundreds of adapter cables, and it works, but both operating systems do have a password, which is no big deal. We can format that.
But now it was time to take the machines outside, check out the specs and give them a clean up if necessary. I was told that these machines had spent a lot of time in the loft unused for a few years, so I don't expect to find the cleanliest of environments inside these cases, and lo and behold, what I was met with pretty much met my expectations. Our first PC here looked a bit like a desert, had slowly built up inside the enclosure. And our second machine here was a little bit cleaner, and as I was expecting, the specifications do seem identical, right the way down to the RAM sticks used. On closer inspection, it seems that our processor is an Intel Celeron E3500, a dual-core socket 775 chip. In terms of storage, we also have a 500GB hard drive, which isn't bad to be honest, and with the 4 gigs of RAM, should we want to resell this machine, then it shouldn't be too hard to do so and make a small profit. The 4 and 500 gig combination is still suitable for basic everyday tasks, especially when paired with an older operating system like Windows 7. As I began prepping the PCs for cleanup, I noticed that one of the arms on the heatsink fan was broken, so I'd have to replace that, though luckily I do have a spare lying around, so it won't cost me anything extra. I also took the brief opportunity to look up the motherboard here and check out what CPUs it did support, should I want to upgrade these machines, and well, the outcome wasn't good. There weren't really any significant upgrades available, and that plays heavily into the end result of this video, something we'll discuss a little later on. But let's cue the cleanup montage. So it took me a couple of hours to clean up both PCs, and I think it's fair to say they look a lot better than they did when I first picked them up. Now, the next step was to install Windows 7. This is the operating system they originally had on them, but they were password protected, and rather ask the seller what the password was, I thought it's just easier to install fresh copies of the operating system. I've also bumped it up from Home Premium to Professional on both systems as well, using a key that cost about £2 on eBay. It was during the installation of all the necessary drivers that I noticed that the Celeron isn't exactly the most capable processor in the world. In fact, using this machine for anything other than very basic tasks feels rather sluggish. The Cinebench result came back at 111, which isn't terrible as far as Celerons go, but it's far from a snappy CPU, which is to be expected considering the age and the fact that this was a budget orientated machine when it launched years ago. I mean, I did try gaming on the integrated G41 chipset as well, and even San Andreas here didn't really want to run very well. It's a bit like a PowerPoint presentation, but if you turn the settings down low enough, you might be able to squeeze playable frame rates out of some ancient titles. So fast forward a day, and I want to talk a little more about the situation with these Facebook Marketplace PCs. Now, initially, I thought I might upgrade them, but as I mentioned earlier, we couldn't really perform any significant upgrades in terms of the processor. These systems do support 8 gigs of DDR3 memory, but I thought that wasn't really worth the extra investment either, and I decided to prioritise profit. Let's discuss the power supply first of all. So it was a 300 watt unit that was of satisfactory quality to power this machine as it was, but in order to slot the graphics card in here, I may have needed to upgrade that if I wanted anything remotely powerful. But then, should I have gone down that road, the processor would have quickly become the bottleneck. I could have gone with an older graphics card, maybe a Radeon 4350 or 5450, but in terms of the initial outlay, monetary wise, I don't think that would have helped to net a higher profit. I think these machines were best resold as basic usage systems, and that's exactly what I did. I left the 300 watt power supply in there, I kept the 4 gigs of RAM in there, and I kept the 500 gigabyte SATA hard drives in there too, as well as the processors. These remained pretty much untouched apart from the cleanup that I gave them, and I decided I was going to try and double my money on my investment here. So I paid £40 for the pair, £20 each, and I thought I would try and sell them for £40 each. And I'm happy to say that this was a success. I relisted them on the Facebook Marketplace, had a couple of local buyers who were interested, one of which never showed up and the other one never replied to me in the first place after showing initial interest, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. And I also had a little bit of interest from a local computer store too. They were happy to pay £80 for both of the machines, so I think that's a job well done there. We've made £40 with very little work. Cleaning up systems, in my opinion at least, is very therapeutic, very relaxing. So to earn money at the end of it, well, I think it was an okay result. The thing when buying and selling PCs is that you don't want to get too greedy. I'd recommend buying lower end systems in bulk and then squeezing a little bit of profit out of each one. Taking more care with each individual system as well. If you're opting to build higher end or buying and selling higher end systems, then there's higher risk for you. The profit may be a little bigger, but should anything go wrong at the customer's end, then, well, it's not a happy outcome all the time, and you could see your profits quickly go down the drain. This is starting to sound like one of those financial advice channels, but yeah, every so often I buy and sell a couple of PCs just for fun really, and if I can make a profit out of it, then so be it. In the case of the ZooStore machines, I think we did okay in making a small profit, and I think the new owner, whoever they may be, should be happy with them, providing all they want to do is do a bit of browsing, scroll through their Facebook newsfeed, or just keep in touch with distant friends via email. With all that said and done, well, I hope you've enjoyed the first episode of Tech Things I Found on Facebook Marketplace. There's probably a better name somewhere for this series. If you enjoyed it, leave a like down below. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And hopefully, I'll see all of you in the next one.